talking today with Dustin Fox, managing partner for Justinian Associates, a personal injury law firm with offices in the Austin area and San Antonio. Today we'll be talking about car accidents and specifically 6 things you need to do right after a car accident. Dustin, thanks for taking time to join us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on today.
Before we get to the tips, tell us briefly why these tips are important and relevant for people to know right after a car accident.
Sure. So most of the time, whenever you get into a car accident, there's certain things that get triggered. There's timelines. There's certain things you need to preserve. There's reasons why you need to preserve certain things. And sometimes you even need to refrain from saying certain things at certain times. And so with these just 6 tips, I think that I could better help you with your car accident claim whenever you go to make it with the insurance. And ultimately, if you don't hire an attorney, these tips alone should help preserve your claim.
Great. That's good to know. Well, let's just jump right in. What's the first tip you'd like to share?
So the very first tip, I tell people often, I'm a juris doctor. I'm not a medical doctor. But whenever you're in a car accident, you should seek medical attention because even the slightest accident can actually cause some real damages. And so seeking medical attention, calling 911, and starting that medical process just to ensure that you're okay, because at the end of the day, compensation isn't going to make up for medical injuries. So the very first tip is call 911, or if you're able to drive, you should at least go get checked out to make sure that you don't have a broken bone or a bulging disc. So seek that medical attention first and foremost.
And is that going to be the case even if you don't feel anything? Let's say you feel fine. Should you still go and seek medical attention just to make sure?
Well, personally, I think so. I'll give you a small example. My wife was in a motor vehicle accident, and she felt fine right after the car accident happened because you have all that adrenaline. She went and got checked out, and she ended up being fine after the x-rays. 2 weeks later, she ended up having 4 herniated discs. But for having that certain medical attention immediately, she probably wouldn't have had that follow-up. And insurance companies tend to put a lot of focus on what they call gaps in treatment. So the sooner you actually seek medical treatment, the better off your case will end up being. And, if you end up not being injured, even better. But it's also for just a peace of mind, just to know that you're not actually hurt from an accident.
Well, let's talk about the second tip. What's the second thing people should know?
Well, after you've already assessed whether or not you're injured or you need to seek immediate medical attention, I would say the second best tip I can do is call the police and get a police report. The reason behind this is oftentimes an attorney or even someone who's unrepresented uses the police report to establish who's actually at fault. And so without a police report, oftentimes I've seen someone ends up lying. They say, you know what? No, this is the story. It was like, well, if you had a police report that establishes who is at fault, that is going to be the best way to go forward with your claim, with or without an attorney.
Okay, so getting that police report is essential. What do you do in the situation where, if it happens, you contact the police and, for whatever reason it takes them a while, they don't come right away, or you should still wait to get that report?
Sometimes I've had people wait for the police to come for over an hour and a half, and they just say, you know what, I'm not so seriously injured that I can't just leave the scene. Like, they've already called the police. They've, established the fact that they've called the police. And after that happened, you can go and request an actual police report because they're going to have a record of you calling and, establishing the fact that whatever you say actually occurred. So, you call up the police. Hey, I was rear-ended. I'm on I-35 here in Austin, Texas. I don't have any serious injuries. And oftentimes the police will actually say, okay, if there's no serious injuries, just go ahead and exchange insurance information and report it. So, but you can go later on down to the police station and request a report based on what occurred.
Let's talk about the third tip. What's the third thing people need to know?
Well, if you're not seriously injured and you have the opportunity, preserve the evidence. What do I mean by this? Actually take photos of the scene, the road, and maybe skid marks, but make sure you get something that documents and preserves that evidence because sometimes it takes a long time to be able to get photographs of the other vehicle. Sometimes it's not even possible until you have to file a lawsuit. And by that time, the car's already probably been destroyed or sold for parts or something. So immediately after the accident, take photos of any injuries, take all photos of the scene and all the vehicles from all different angles. You can't over document.
And these photos can be obviously done with a mobile phone or anything. They don't have to be spectacular photos, just something for evidence, for documented evidence.
Absolutely. And in today's world, most cell phones nowadays, they have pretty spectacular phones and cameras. And so, yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. But any and all evidence that can document what really occurred and angles of how the impact, happened, that's ultimately what I would say is going to be important whenever you decide to either make your bodily injury claim or property damage claim.
Let's talk about the fourth tip.
This one I find particularly important. Do not make a recorded statement with the insurance if you're not represented. Why do I say this? Because if you make a recorded statement, it can actually be used against you later down the road if they happen to deny your claim or if you end up ultimately having to file a lawsuit. So I've had clients in the past where we're in a deposition, which is just a formal interview once you finally get into litigation. And the opposing counsel will pick up the recorded statement and they'll say, hey, you said to your insurance company just a day after the accident, you weren't feeling too bad. But here you are making, a bodily injury claim. That doesn't look right. And so just like my wife, she didn't actually experience real pain for 2 weeks down the road. But had she made that statement, it's going to make her look like a liar. They're going to, impeach her. So I'd recommend never really making a recorded statement that has to do anything with injuries because you don't know how many weeks it's going to take you to realize said injuries. And it will do you absolutely no good on any angle that I can imagine.
And does that include any statements that you could make not only to the insurance company, but also to people that were witnesses or part of the accident or police or anything?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the recorded statement itself, there's going to be much more damaging things you could do because it's recorded. But on the other hand, if you make statements, just like I said, that aren't recorded, those witnesses could then later on be interviewed by opposing counsel. They could be interviewed by me. So I think ultimately the best thing to do is really just not make a statement about injuries to anyone other than your medical doctor.
Let's talk about the next tip.
So the next tip I'd say is definitely going to be contact your auto insurance because some people don't really realize what exactly they have on their auto insurance policy. There's something called personal injury protection, or PIP for short, and they could have uninsured, underinsured motor vehicle coverage. And so whenever you contact your insurance agent and you say, hey, look, I was, possibly rear-ended or whatever the scenario is, they might be able to give you that personal injury protection so you can actually have those medical bills paid for without it coming out of pocket. And, it's really odd sometimes. I have clients that don't want to use their own insurance because they say, well, it was the other person's fault. But the only time that you actually get to use this insurance policy is in this exact same situation. So you're paying for an insurance policy that you ultimately don't even want to use when that time comes. Not just auto insurance, but your health insurance, because you might be able to get away with doing all of your medical bills without coming out of pocket in enormous amounts. I mean, probably anyone listening to this all know that our health insurance bills without actually having health insurance is outrageous. So my ultimate goal is to put clients or potential clients in the best, position moving forward if they decide not to hire an attorney.
And I believe we're on the fifth tip. So what's the fifth thing people should know?
I kind of combined 4 and 5 there because it was like both auto insurance and health insurance. So if I were to wrap it up, the last thing that I think is the easiest and most convenient for folks to do is hire a personal injury attorney, even if it's not me. Most people give a consultation for absolutely free, and they could tell you if it's advantageous for you to hire an attorney or even how to settle the case itself. But when you hire a personal injury attorney, we have letters of protection, which is just a fancy way of saying that you can get medical treatment without out-expenses cost, out of pocket for you. We pay your medical expenses. So if you have to seek a very specialized doctor, we actually will pay for that up front and collect it once the settlement arrives. And my favorite thing I think about hiring an attorney is we all have stuff going on in our lives. Your only job is at that point, once you hire an attorney, is just to seek medical treatment and get better. You allow us to do all your negotiations, all your faxing, all your paperwork. And so ultimately, I think that hiring a personal injury attorney in a motor vehicle accident is really just it's a stress reliever for the general person, because most people don't have time for this. They have jobs, they have kids. They would like to not negotiate with insurance companies because that's what they do professionally, right? And that's what we do. One of the best ways I've actually thought about this one is if you got into a motor vehicle accident, you had $4,000, $10,000 in medical bills. Do you know what your case is worth? Guess what? I do. I know how to do the research. I've handled thousands of clients in motor vehicle accidents. And so I think that's where I add real value. And so my last tip is to at least consult with a personal injury attorney. And if you feel like it's a good relationship, you like and trust them, definitely hire one.
That's great, because it does sound as if you do have medical bills. The benefit is you can focus on getting well and getting back, the pieces of your life back together, and not having to worry about calls to the doctor's offices or having to negotiate fees or anything like that. That's something that you as an attorney would handle. Is that right?
Yep, absolutely. In fact, what I didn't really touch on is we help negotiate those medical bills down. So we focus on adding value in every aspect. So the client really just gets to focus on their medical health, getting to their doctor's appointments that oftentimes my paralegals will set up if they need us to set them up. And then at the end of the day, we negotiate those medical bills down. And so our goal is to maximize the settlement value for our clients. In fact, I read a study not too long ago that clients will oftentimes get 50% more money in their pocket by hiring an attorney, even after our attorney's fees.
Well, this has been great, Dustin. Thank you very much, and lots of great information there. Let's talk real quick about how someone might get in touch with you or the firm.
The easiest way is to probably just look us up straight online. It's www.justinian.com. It's JUSTINIAN.com. We have a phone number you can reach us at directly, 512-980-0000. And if you just reach out to me with a legal question, even if I can't help you or one of my attorneys can't help you, I'll point you in the right direction of someone I actually know and trust instead of just giving you an 800 number to the state bar. I'm well networked. I've been doing networking in the area for 7 years, so I've tried to find attorneys in different areas that I know, like, and trust, so I can send people to them. So those are the two easiest ways, and I'd be more than happy to ever take a call.
That's great, and it's just to underscore that first consultation is free, right?
That's correct. I've been an attorney now 7 years. I still haven't ever charged for a consultation. And so every single thing, when it comes to a free legal or a consultation, if you have a question, the client or potential client never actually has to pay anything out of pocket to simply get the answers that they're looking for.
Great. So it sounds like there's no risk and a lot of potential upsides to that. So thank you very much, Dustin, for your time today.
Absolutely. I appreciate your time as well. Thank you so much.